Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo, and I'm here with a really cool author today. We have Rilzy Adams, who if you haven't heard of this author, first off, you need to expand your romance TBR so you include her books, because I think if you have been living under a rock, you have had to seen like Go Deep and Deeper. I believe it's Xander and Nevaeh. You had to see that book kind of floating around BookTube. So like I'm super excited to be talking to you today, Rilzy. And how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on my channel as well. One of the first questions that I wanted to ask is like, what kind of got you started in writing romance? Were you always a reader and then wanted to write romance?
Okay, so I was always a reader. I've been reading for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, instead of like timeouts or those sorts of things as punishment, my mom would just take away my books. So she would be like, "You're not going to go back to this for the next, I don't know, 2 days. You can read your books for school." And it's reflective. So I think that tells you how much I like to read. And she was also very broad about whatever you can get your hands on, go ahead, read. If there's anything that seems a little bit weird, we'll have a conversation about it. So she
Mhm.
would say that when I was very young, she was big into things like John Grisham and James Patterson and Sidney Sheldon. She was reading a Sidney Sheldon book, and I took it away from her and I said, I'm going to try to read this myself. I'm not sure how far along I got, but I was always a reader. I used to want to draw though. I used to love comic books and I wanted to be an artist. And I had an older cousin. Those cousins were just slightly older, so you spent a lot of time with them. And she was great
Mhm.
at drawing, but I was not. And so my mom sat me down and she said, well, you saw those books that you took away from me. Not everything's like Enid Blyton, and you don't really need to have photos. You can just write. And so I started writing then. My first set of books were about a group of child assassins. I'm really not sure. I want to say in my defense I was young, but I don't know if that makes it better. But I was about 8. Um, and then I went into fantasy. So for a really long time, I wrote epic fantasy. But
Ooh.
I realized that I would read romance. I would steal my cousins' Harlequins and Silhouettes and Eric Jerome Dickey books. And I thought to myself, well, why am I not writing the things that I love to read? And maybe when I was about 16, that's when I started. Never looks back.
That is so cool. So like now, do can we expect like a romance high epic fantasy from you in the coming years? Like you have to now.
I'm not sure, like, one thing, and every year I say, I will write a paranormal romance this year. I'm really interested, sorry, in paranormal romance, but I want it to be from a Caribbean sort of perspective. And so I'm working on it, at least plotting wise. I'm working on a good way to bring them together because we have a lot of
Ooh.
paranormal stuff, legends that are really cool throughout the region. So I'm trying to figure out how how to make it work. So we'll
Mhm.
see. But as for the fantasy bit, I'm not sure. Every once in a
Oh.
while, maybe every 5 to 6 months, I'll pick up a fantasy book and remind myself of how hard they are to keep straight. But yeah, but who knows? Who
Who
knows?
knows?
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm super hyped for your paranormal because I am on a super paranormal kick. It's like
Hmm.
that and contemporary, and then historical kind of fell to the wayside a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
paranormal, it's just like feeds. Like I just like love reading it. You tell me paranormal, especially featuring like minority characters, like if you have an Asian or a black vampire or a Latinx vampire, I'm like, ooh, okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. Like you just have to say paranormal. I'm like, okay, one click. I didn't even know what it was about. That's the only time like the only time I would be disappointed if it was like you say paranormal, but it's like more magical realism, so it's like not
Mhm.
explicit, and I'm like, oh no, like yeah, so
No, mine should be really, 'cause, so for example, um, in the French Caribbean, more so than the English speaking Caribbean. I'm still researching, but these are stories that you hear when you're really young. So there's a I'm not even going to pronounce this right. A sukoyon. Um, she is not really a vampire, but there is some sucking of blood. Um, but but then where I was very stuck is that this figure is very often demonized.
Ooh.
Not in terms of angels, demons, but villain. She's usually the villain
Mhm.
in stories. And so I've been like, well, how do I make you root for the person? A lot of them, a lot of the characters in our lore, they'd be more on the villainous side. So I'm
Mm.
trying to think of a way to make you root for them, and that's where I'm stuck.
Okay.
So there
You
may
can
be things that you're not even used to seeing,
okay.
like, period, in terms of fiction.
Okay, I'm super excited for that. Like, you can write straight up villain story. I can hate the main character, but as long as your trademark Steam is there, we will be fine. Like, all of us readers will be fine. If you came up with closed door paranormal, I'd be like, okay, we need a DM. We need a I need a DM you because this is not okay. I demand a rewrite. I'll just like I'll send you my notes. I'll be like, okay, now insert steamy scene here, another steamy scene.
But I have a list when we get further into when we get further down. Yeah.
Okay, but I feel like the first book I have to talk to you about is Go Deep. Now,
Mhm.
I'm going to be a little controversial, and it's my second favorite. That duology, Go Deep and Go Deeper, is actually
Uh-huh.
my favorite is Love in the Time of Corona,
Oh, really?
which is
Okay.
so
That makes me
interesting
really excited.
because like that was the one I just read recently. I was like, I feel like there's like I feels like I had to go back and say, I feel like I'm missing, like, I haven't read your complete backlist yet. So I was like, oh, let me try out this one. Like, I haven't tried like a Corona S set,
That's the one that
Corona
got me
R set
in
S.
trouble on Twitter, but we'll come to that.
So I'll start with like Go Deep. I absolutely love this premise. I was like, where did this even come from? Like, erotic writer loses her mojo. I like how the readers were like calling her out, saying like she's like dusty, she got old. Like you should go write something.
So
I just
Goji,
cracked up.
so I tell this story all the time. Goji is really interesting because that was not the book I was writing. So I'm gonna be controversial for my own backlist. But my favorite book is Birthday Shot. And
Ooh.
yeah, my favorite is Birthday Shot. And I had been working on Birthday Shot for a while. And I was stuck. And so I thought, I'm gonna just take a break. I'm gonna read some books, have a little, me time and allow um, my characters to start speaking to me again. But I was on
Mhm.
Twitter and one of my friends, Nikki, she tweeted, I'm looking for friends to love a romance. And so I was messing around. So I was recommending some of mine. I'm like, oh, you can read Will You Be Mine or 12 Dates of Christmas. She's like, Reels, I've read those already. Like, stop it. And so I said, okay, I'll write you one. She thought I was joking. And maybe in that moment I was joking, but then I thought maybe I should just write her a short friends to lovers sort of thing. And so I went on Pinterest and I scrolled until I found two names that I thought cute, Zand and Nabaya. And then I sat there and I thought, well, I don't have a plot. I'm just going on vibes. I didn't have a scene. And so I took a scene that was meant to be in Birthday Shot. And I thought, okay, cool. We're going to just like put this over here. And then I worked backwards. I'm like, why would you give this girl a reason to ask her friend to be her mentor chick? And and then we just moved on from there. So it was the book that was not supposed to be. I didn't even name it. Um, So that cover, it was a pre-made cover that I bought because
Mm.
sometimes I'll be scrolling and I'm buying a bunch of covers for no rhyme or reason. I have no plots. I have nothing, but I'm like, this is cute. And I couldn't be bothered to think of her name. So I said to her, just slap my name at the bottom of that. That's fine. We'll just keep that name. And yeah,
Wow. That is so cool to hear because I was like, I've never seen a romance novella with that plot line. I was like, wait, what? Like, whenever someone describes the plot of it, plot of Go Deep, I'm like, hold up, wait, what? Like, hold on, I need to read this book. Like, but like when you read it, like, oh my goodness, like the steam in that one for it not being that long of a book, it was just,
yeah,
I loved it. I love the couple. And I love how we got like the little bonnet novelette would go
yeah,
deeper, go deeper.
dig
I
deeper.
love seeing like I
Yeah,
love getting to see their wedding and getting to see their happily ever after. I just love how the friends were just like, y'all have I was like even I was just like, y'all clearly like each other. So I'm like, why are you trying to front like being in your own relationships and trying to like deny your feelings at the time? I was like, get it together, characters. But I absolutely love that one. But I wanted to kind of talk about Love in the Time of Corona, which like I was like a little bit. I was like, let me try this out. I haven't read any quarantine romances, which is
yeah.
odd. I should have read some, but like I never did. I'm always behind the trend. So like, where did that story come from? Because I love how it's an estranged couple about to get divorced, and they
Okay.
get put together.
Okay, so first off, so that was written very early in the pandemic. So that was that was when the lockdowns first started, when people were still kind of like, oh, this will be done by August.
Hmm.
This isn't gonna last very, very long. But I'm badly asthmatic, and everyone was panicking in my office space. And one
Hmm.
of the things that bothered me the most is aerosol sprays. And people were just going
Mm,
around and lysoling everything. And so
everything.
my doctor said to me, an asthma attack's probably going to kill you before coronavirus does. So she put me on extended sick leave. So way before people around me started quarantining, I was just home. And there was nothing to do but worry. And so I thought, well, I needed to write a happily ever after. I needed to write something that ended happy so that I could feel hopeful. And I thought, well, how would anybody manage being quarantined with someone they did not like? And then I thought, well, let's make it romance. And I thought that the more believable thing may have been a second chance romance instead of a fresh sort of romance, or like an enemies to lovers sort of thing. Well, but also kind of, because they did kind of have that they really didn't like. Well, she really didn't like him at the time,
Hmm.
and so that's how that was the premise. And I keep saying to people that, well, I know what it's like being in the same space with someone after the relationship had ended. It's not great. and
Hmm.
um, and that's even when there's no quarantine, so you can leave and come back as late as you want and try to avoid seeing each other. And I just decided to, well, let's see where we go from there. And for me, that book was very therapeutic to write. It was really helpful for me because during that time, I was stressed out. So yeah, it does have a soft spot, but there were people who were really mad.
Mm.
At that stage, they were like, well, why are you trying to profit off of like something? Because by the time people realized that it was out, or it was out, things just started getting really bad. And they were like, well, this
Mm.
is tacky. But I thought, well, but this is real. Like, this is what a lot of people are now finding themselves dealing with. So,
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because like it was just a nice light read. That had your trademark steam. It had the like. I was surprised like how I was like rooting for the relationship too. I was like my feelings are like all in flux with this book. And I was like I love this so 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 much. Like I'm happy you wrote it because like it was just a nice it was a nice comfort blanket. It was like a nice like I like read it in between books. I was like that was like a nice like break and a nice escaping with like low angst. I would say not completely low angst, but it was like
Yeah, yeah,
definitely a fun and enjoyable read. I was like, I was surprised. I thought Go Deep or Birthday Shot or Love Scammed would be like competing for the top spot. I was like, this book came out of nowhere. I was like,
because when
hold
I
up, hold up,
saw that
hold
book
up.
on the list, I was like, he read it.
I was
I
surprised
was
too.
shook. I was like,
I was like, I
oh.
really like this. Like, this is my favorite.
The thing is, I really liked the lead male, sorry, the male
Mm-hmm.
character in
Character.
I really liked it. I thought he was he realized like I could have done things so much better, and even though I had the best of intentions, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you need action.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I just love how the heroine was just like, I'm done. Like, and then as
I
soon as she's
deserve.
about to leave, she's like, Are you? I just like, I felt her frustration. I was like, Oh, that must suck.
Well,
Like,
for me, it was the dog for me. We need to work out custody of this dog. But yeah,
I love it so much. I was like, I was so shocked. Like, that would have been my favorite. But Love Scam is definitely in the top of my favorites of yours because I was like, I love the heroine's response to her best friend who kind of orchestrates the whole entire thing. She's like, I'm gonna cut you. I was like, but she's like, but we're gonna pay for all of it. But she's like, I'm still angry at you. I'm still angry, and like, I love that. Like, it's like almost like a similar riff off of Love the Time of Corona, but like on vacation and just like hide into a whole nother where your friends are actually doing the machinations of like throwing you because I think they were in one hotel bed.
no, they
One
weren't.
hotel. Oh no,
No,
they weren't.
they realized that they were in danger, and so they booked them in different rooms. They're kind of like, you know what, we are sorry. We
Oh
should
yeah.
not have done this. So, you know, you can go ahead, have separate vacations. You don't have to see each other. We apologize. My bad.
So like, where did that story idea come from? Because the book first popped up on Katie Roberts's Instagram, and I was like, "Holy snap!" Like, Rilzy like made it like the Queen Katie Roberts, like just like because her like erotic stuff is just like out there. I'm like, I never know what she's gonna write next.
That's
I was like,
true.
I didn't even see it. I like, I'm really bad with new releases. I was like, I didn't remember this book coming out, so like, I immediately saw it and like went and bought it on Amazon. I was like, I love this one as well. Like,
It was a Valentine's Day release. And I'm trying to remember where that came from. I don't remember where I just knew that I was thinking about the worst time to have a date, a blind date, or to meet someone was on Valentine's Day. It like be really,
mm-hmm,
really awkward if it was a Valentine's Day date. And then I thought, well, the worst blind date period is the blind date that you didn't know that you're going on. And then I thought, let's make it worse. And that's how I thought foreign country. And yeah, I think that was my thought pattern. And then
mm-hmm.
I had the line like the blind date to end all blind dates. And we moved from there.
Okay, because like, just like your ideas, like it's so easy to like pitch your books to like on my booktube channel to say, hey, if you like this, I can just say like the tagline. People are like, oh, blind dates sequestered on a vacation, like oh, like immediately like one click. So I was like, I enjoyed it so much. It was so quick and so engaging. So I was like, I had a question in general. Your books have like such strong female characters and also strong male characters. So I wonder, do you have to have their voices in your head, before you kind of navigate them through the plot, or do you have the plot and then you kind of fit the characters to the plot?
Okay, so I'm a notorious seat of the pantser. Like I don't generally I try. I don't generally plot. I remember so for Love Scammed, I thought I'm gonna plot this because in my head, plotters are superior. Like they have their shit together. Meanwhile, so usually my plots come about because I think, well, what would happen if? And then we move from there. And then I guess that's not a plot more than that's a, well, I don't know what that is. But then I find two people and then I start to write. And then eventually I'm like, aha, oh, this is what you're saying to me. But for Love Scam, I tried to do it differently. So I had the premise and then I sat and I plotted it out like chapter by chapter. It took me 3 days. I'm never doing it again. It took me 3 days and then I didn't write anything that was on. Um, Nothing that ended up in the book was in the plot that I did. So usually the characters they come to me. Like for example, go Tasha and Cole, obviously right now we know they are from Goji. Their book will be out later this year. And at first I was saying to a friend today, I was writing, and I'm like, wow, Tasha's acting weird. Like, why is she acting weird? And then she said to me, but that doesn't make any sense. You're writing the book. I'm like, no, honestly, I had no idea what she was up to until the end. And then it clicked. And then when I started their book, that was when I realized where I was going. So I'm character driven, even though that sounds weird, except for writers, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like one of the things that like I enjoy is like the characters so much and like their chemistry. And like, cause like even with the steamy scenes, it only works because like the characters feel right for each other and the chemistry is there. And like you do it in such a short amount of time. I was like, I like they're like a quick like you land all the character beats, which I was just like, with Love in the Time of Corona. I was like, what? Like I was like, how did she like? I'm already in my feels. I'm like, I need like another book for them. I just need like 300 pages, like just following them in the aftermath and just them being happy because I just enjoy those characters so much. Like, so it's like I just love your characters and the plot is also really good. And then oh yeah, like your books are just like a nice piece of like joy. Like I can go like, you know what? I need an author who can deliver every single time. I'm not gonna get a book from you and it's gonna be closed door or low
My books
steam.
will never be closed door, but so the thing is, I wasn't always high steam. So the very first set of books I wrote, the Falling Like a Johnson series,
Mhm.
um, they weren't very high steam, and the Gift in particular took a while before they hooked up. But that was because of the premise of the book. It would have been really weird if they'd hooked up pretty early, considering how they were thrown together. And then Will You Be Mine was a little bit more steamy. And then Just One More Time was more low steam. And they were higher angst, these books. And then for the fourth book, things started getting a little more steamy. And then it continued straight through the kind of the books that I have now. But fair warning, Tash and Cole's book isn't very high steam. Uh, and it is a slow burn. And it is high angst,
Oh
very
no.
high. So fair warning. In fact, the intention is hopefully it works out. I'm going to be dropping two books at the same time, because the other one is going to be high steam, low act. So I'll be like, please read Cole and Tasha. This is not maybe not what you're accustomed to, but try me out. And if that doesn't go very well, here's one that's more along the lines of what you're accustomed to.
I trust you. So like if
But I've
you
been
if
saying, sorry,
no, you sorry, you can go.
I've been saying for nearly a year that my favorite male character is Cole, and everyone kept going, well, we have no, are we supposed to take your word on it? Because where is the book? But he really is my favorite male character. That, like, Hudson comes very close, but he really is my favorite. And it was a tough book to write, I'll say that. And it may be a tough book to read, but I love their story. I love their story. You might cry a
Oh
few times,
no.
but I really love their story.
Mhm.
So we'll see. I'll be anxious. I'll be nervous because remember, as I was writing it, sometimes people would tag me in things, and they're like, "Yeah, low conflict, high steam," and I was there like, "Oh no."
Like you're going against your own brand.
But I mean, in my
Wait.
defense, the gift
Mhm.
was very angsty. I'm not sure if you've gone that far back in my backlist yet.
No, that's like that series is the one I still have. I'm still pending. I was like, I need to. I was like, I wanted to get it in, but I was like, I forgot. I was like, five
But,
books. I was like, I'm a slow ebook reader.
but the premise of that book, or the plot, was it's an enemies to lovers, also kinda, but maybe not, forced proximity. The lead female MC, Maya, hated her best friend's husband, Jackson. Like, they could not stand each other. And the only thing that they had in common was how much they loved the best friend. And she could not get pregnant. And so she asked Maya to be a surrogate. And Maya's kind of like, well, not sure I'm ready for motherhood, but that's fine because at the end of the day, you'll have your baby and you're my best friend in the world. And so we will. And they went through the IVF process. Maya got pregnant, and then Charlotte died. And that's how the book starts, at her funeral. And suddenly she's kind of like, well, sorry
No, you're
about
fine.
that. She's kind of like, well, I'm still pregnant, and here's this baby, and I hate her husband. And it follows their journey of falling in love. So,
Oh.
yeah, that was,
Okay. Okay, now I'm like super hyped, but now I have to bring tissues with me when I read the gift because I you're gonna kill me with the beginning of the book. I was like,
yeah,
that's
it literally starts at her funeral. So, I think the Johnson series followed some pretty heavy topics.
mhm.
Um, but, and Before We Fall is, which is Tasha and Cole's story, is the first book since then that I'm like, well, this is pretty heavy. It is really,
Mhm.
oh yeah, it is really heavy. There's a book in the Johnson series called Yours Always,
Mhm.
and it is kind of like deeper, but the tears were not happy tears that people were crying until the end, obviously, because there will be a happily ever after. And I
Mhm.
remember a reader messaged me and she said, "This gutted me. Like, why would you do this?"
Like, why would
But
you
it's
do that to
more
me?
that she followed the Johnsons first, so the whiplash probably was not as great as if you came off of Go Deep in Love Scammed and then you're like, wait.
What is
So,
it?
but before we fall, I'm very nervous about it, but I'm very excited about it because
Mhm.
even though it's very slow steam, they
Mhm.
kiss for the first time very far into the book, like very, very, very far into the book. My beta reader
Okay.
was like, well, my alpha reader, she's like, oh, okay, slow steam, very slow. But she said to me that there was so much going on that it wasn't
Okay.
clicking for her until a bit afterwards. 1 second. But yeah, their story was this, I think, for me, their love
Mhm.
story was the sweetest. So
Mm.
we'll see. But I'm dropping that high heat book at the same time, hopefully, just so either it can be used as a palate cleanser or it can be used as a buffer. I don't know. But we'll see.
You can like destroy me with that book, and then I can use go on to the high heat book and be like, okay, whew, okay, I'm back to
I hope
normal.
so.
I can reset.
I don't have it. I don't think I've dropped the cover for that yet, but it's called Busset. So there we go.
Where I need the book now. I need to pre-order this now.
So
The
we'll
title
see.
you title you
Like
had me. I'm like
ideally,
click.
yeah, ideally they're gonna be dropped at the same time. It's not even gonna be a before we fall. I'm gonna be like, look, here's it, look, and yeah, I'll be really good with my content warnings for before we fall because it is heavy.
It's heavy. Hmm. And I love that you include that because I know so many more readers they want those warnings sometimes before going to like the more heavier books. So they're like, okay, like I can completely see like when some books I read, I'm like I can see how that can be triggering if
And
you don't know if that's gonna happen in the book.
so that's something that I had to grow into. I guess we learn it didn't hit me until, so like for example, Just One More Time, which is the third book in the Johnson series. I'm currently like getting that ready for paperback and getting a new version of the ebook ready to be uploaded. And I thought, oh my god, there's so many content warnings that I should have put in this book, like so many, alarming even. But it was when I wrote Yours Always, because of the subject matter, I thought, no, this needs a content warning. There's no way I can publish this book and just go, hey, this marriage is in trouble, and the readers not understand what they're going into,
Mm-hmm.
because that could be really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm just trying to be very cognizant of that going forward. But Before We Fall is as such that had I never written Yours Always, this would have been the book to make me go, content warnings, please.
Mm-hmm.
And not just content warnings in the book. Because not everyone, what I'm realizing is that not everyone scrolls forward to that first page where
Yeah.
you get the content warnings. So once I start to like promote this book more heavily, it's gonna be content warnings as I promote. I mean, I can say to there's domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heavy theme in the book, and so it's just very important that even as I promote it, I go, well, there's domestic violence here. They do have a happily ever after,
Mm-hmm.
but this may be hard for you, and if it is triggering for you, read Busset because that's going to be light and that's going to be really fun. So Busset was what I needed for myself
Mm-hmm.
after Before We Fall. So
And that's amazing. That's like one of the things that I love so much about romance is that you have, which some people lodge against, like a complaint against romance, the happily ever afters, but it's nice to know that you can go
it's
through
so
like some really
important.
dark themes and you're still knowing that you're going to end up in a happy, because I feel like there's been some books that are not romance that I finished reading and I was like, oh my goodness, that book like mentally destroyed me because I needed that happily ever after to kind of bring back up my spirits instead of like going like, excuse me, I'm just gonna sit here and cry for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I've read some really sad romances. Like in the beginning, they're so sad, and I'm crying, and I'm sad, and but in my mind, I'm like, keep pushing, Rose, keep pushing, because we know there will be a happily ever after. And I think that's why the genre is so important, and
Hmm.
how it can comfort people so much. I think that's a very important thing. I had a friend who said to me, I want to read a romance novel without a happily ever after. And I said, well, first things first. That's not a romance.
Romance.
That is a book that has a romantic subplot, but that's
But
not a
it's
romance. Like
hmm
happily ever afters, they are the foundation of romances. And so someone said to her, well, read yours always. It'll destroy you. Then you can just like
You just get
ignore the
this
happy
the
ever after,
ending.
but up until then, you'll get what you're looking for. So, but
Yeah,
that's
that's
something that I die by. Romance novels must have a happily ever after or a happy for now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like sometimes when I'm like in the itch for like sometimes I want a romance, but I want it in like another genre.
Mhm.
Like sometimes I just like want that like where it's like a big romance like because I seen some books being passed off as romance, and that's where I get really angry, especially now that you're starting to see like contemporary or what's called like women fiction kind of getting mixed into things, which I feel like that's like the closest you can get to being a romance without fully being a romance because
Yes.
they're not the main plot, but they have a heavy romance subplot that you could argue, and sometimes
I'm so controversial about this, and it's a hill I'm going to die on. It could be like heavier. It could be like boy meets girl. You know, like what they used to say was like the blueprint of romance novels. So boy
Mhm.
meets girl, or boy meets boy, or girl meets, and you meet lover meets lover. I think that's the best, most inclusive word split. So
Mhm.
lover meets lover, fall in love, or fight against love, get together. Inevitable circumstances keep them apart.
Yeah.
Happily ever after. And for me, you could do lover meets lover, fall for each other, deny that love, get together, inevitable circumstances keep them apart, no happily ever after, and then stop. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's not romance.
It's like that one thing. Like it doesn't have to be overly sweet. You just have to give them like a good ending, like they're together at the end instead of like because I've seen somewhere there where the couples end is a little bit bittersweet because they still go through all the trauma that they went through the entire book, but like the couple's still together, like they're together at the end. I'm like that's
It's
happy enough for me.
like not knowing like if there's a happily ever after is why fantasy books stress me out so
Hmm.
badly. Like so bad. Like just horribly. Because even like crime procedurals, you know your main character's good at the end. like, like you know, like they may get shot or stabbed or whatever,
Um,
but
uh,
they're gonna solve that crime. And I think, you know, yeah, that's it. A lot of people give romance flat. I'm sorry, I should have warned you that I talk a lot.
no, it's
A
fine.
lot of people give romance flat for always having happily ever afters, but I'm like, in crime
Hmm.
procedurals, you always catch the bad guy. If
Hmm.
not, there's a book two. So yeah.
That's true. And like I wanted to also I have to touch on these two books because I feel like these two novellas are like your most craziest. It's like Ho 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 and Eight. And
Yeah.
I read the premise for these two I read these two books and I was like, oh my goodness, this is like when someone told me about the plot of Ho Ho Ho, I was like why hasn't anyone written this before?
I think that I know that Ho Ho definitely has my wildest first line. Like just the brother's like you're straight up. Oh, you're wrong for that. But yeah, when she got it and she saw it was the chlamydia that did it. Like so it was another so I guess you realize by now a lot of my books are just vibes. Like, they're just vibes. So I was watching a vlog and she had a private chef for her birthday and her friends, and it was such a good time. And they were like conversing as he cooks, and everybody was having a good time. And I thought, oh, well, what would happen if her friends didn't make it? And it was just the two of them, and things started kicking off. And I thought, more than food would get ate. And then we moved from there. It
That's
was
why I just love your head.
a
Like
book for me to write, though. It's just like a random
almost
Sunday afternoon, and I thought,
mhm.
okay, this is what we're gonna do tonight. I love Tempest, and I guess that's why she made a return in in Love Scammed, and then she will also make a return in But as Friends Though, which is Wynn's story. So the third friend.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, I didn't until you said that. I was like, oh wait, Tempest was the best friend in that book. Like it
Yeah.
just like
He
slipped my
was the one
brain.
who orchestrated the scam.
I'm like mad that I didn't realize that. I'm so bad at connecting characters. If they like span different books, I'm like when you mentioned, I was like, oh yeah. Why didn't my brain at fire and like connect this to? I'm like, oh that's that Tempest because I read
Yeah, because
8
when I
before I
started with
read
Love,
Love Scam.
when I started with Love Scam, I'm like, who would be wild enough to do something like that, but then
Tempest.
also have the resources? I thought
Mhm.
Tempest. Tempest
Tempest.
would. So
Oh, that is so cool. Like that's like I had to ask you about those two novellas. I was like, what? I was like, these had to be on vibes because I like these are I never seen a romance plot like these two. And I was like, I
Ho
need
Ho
more. I
Ho, I
need.
knew. So Ho Ho was just a Twitter dear, I guess, because I tweeted, "Huh, what if I wrote a Christmas book called Ho Ho Ho?" And everyone said, "Do it." And so I thought I would. But for me, I knew that it would have been because for you either like it or you hate it, and I knew that going ahead because I knew there were so many scenes with her having sex with people other than the main guy that I thought that some people would be put off by that, and some people were. But for me, even though it was like fun and flourishy, and I really liked JB, um, there was an underlying message there because I think that there's so many women who are not comfortable with their sexuality and they're thought that there's so much importance in virginity and staying with the man who may be mistreating you and don't be a hoe. So I was really happy with Mila realizing that for herself. So, but it was the chlamydia that did it.
I
I'm
loved
even
it because
mad.
like
I mean, that could have been the start of a murder mystery as well, because I'm not
that's
sure how
true.
this works out for my husband if that was me. I'm joking. I cannot practice law or criminal conviction. I feel abuse is good.
All I know is like if you ever want to drop another one, like a ho 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 part two around this year's Christmas, like I would not be mad at you.
Mila does feature in But as Friends though, because remember JB is
Uh-huh.
Russ's business partner, and Russ is Temp's
Yes.
husband to be.
Oh, I see
So
what
you
you're
get to
doing.
see
I
them
see.
again. Yeah,
Okay, I'm so happy, and that's like one of the things I love too. That like I see more like your I believe in like the Johnson series. There's a couple of the later books kind of revisiting some of the older couples, and also with
yeah.
like Go Deep, we gotta have Go Deeper. So I love that you're kind of like giving us like a more story for these characters and kind of continue on this story. I feel like a lot of romances you just get the epilogue, maybe you get like 10 epilogues, and then the book is like, okay, we're done. You're never gonna see those characters unless they just pop up or name drop. In other books,
Deeper
like,
was Deeper was it was Christmas time, and I thought I'd like to revisit Nevaeh and Xandra. Like their wedding would be the perfect spot.
mhm.
I do have like one more thing coming. It's not a book, but I don't want to say it yet. I want to make sure that things are a little bit more firm.
Okay.
Nevaeh and Xandra, but yeah. So we'll see about that. We're me and my friend. We're currently working on it.
Ooh. I feel like going to your like Instagram followers and like saying, okay, which author can this be? And just
It's
like,
not a
let me.
book.
Ooh,
It's not.
okay. When can we expect the announcement?
I'm
Soon?
not sure yet. I am hoping by June, but I'm not
Okay.
100% sure yet.
Okay.
But we've
I
been
will
working
be.
on it. We've been working on it since maybe February, I think.
Okay. 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 I'm super excited for that. I'm super excited for your upcoming two book releases that hopefully will be releasing simultaneously. Like I will be waiting on your Amazon page, like follow on Amazon. Like, okay, Amazon, do not fail me now. Let me know when these books drop because
Yeah,
I
but
am the worst.
fair warning though, those are going to be later in the year. So I had to take a hiatus from publishing for two reasons. So in my day job, I'm a prosecutor, and we didn't have any trials at all during COVID. We have a huge backlog, and I have really bad migraines. That is like a really annoying health issue that I have. And I knew, like, I was having a lot of episodes in the last couple months. And I knew that if I added the stress of work and trying to publish and just like general everything, it was going to be a recipe for messing both things up. And so I decided to just take a break from publishing just for a while, to settle court down just a little bit. And so we break in July. And so then I want to pick up getting everything ready like from July. So most of these books will be late in the year, like maybe from August, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from August.
From August. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. That gives me time to like that gives me enough time to make it through your Johnson series because like I'm super slow when it comes to reading. But I do have to ask you, would you ever consider putting any of your books on audio if you got the opportunity?
If I got the opportunity, yes. Yes, I would. But I just feel like for indie publishers, like that requires so much.
Mm-hmm. Because I was
But
like,
yeah,
I just when I was reading Go Deep, I was like, this would blow up on audio. Everyone and their mother and their family and their whole everyone will be like, what is this audiobook?
everyone except my mom. I said she was recommending it to her friends, and I thought, hey, hi, come here. You sit down. Let me explain to you what they're going to find in this book. And she's like, they're adults, really. It will be fine. I thought, okay, cool, cool, cool. My dad has been trying to read it, and I said, you do that, but don't tell me about it. This is good. This is good. You keep it to
Yeah.
yourself.
I think you would need some warning before they have the restaurant scene with a certain remote controlled toy. I was like,
Yeah.
if you're
And
not
it's so funny
prepared.
because that scene was taken from Birthday Shot.
Oh,
It was.
really?
That was the birthday shot. So at first, Go Deep
Hmm.
was only supposed to be that scene.
Hmm.
Like that was it. It was gonna be
That was
like a 9,000 word. It was gonna be like eight. I like to call them love bites. It was just gonna be a
hmm
bite-sized piece of erotic fiction. And then they said to me, he thought, nope, that's not what we have in mind. Keep writing. And but in retrospect, Birthday Shot could not handle any more sex scenes.
Yeah.
It would,
That
it
one
would, it,
that one was jam packed. I was like, okay,
yeah.
like if you added more, I'll be like, I wouldn't mind. Like more steam the merrier.
When I was rereading it to get it ready for paperback, I thought this was a lot. It didn't. I didn't realize that it was a lot, but it's a really good thing I did go deep because it was just it was a lot.
Yeah, that's like go go deep compared to birthday shot. I was like go deep is like tame and like it's still on like the high level. Birthday shot, I was like, oh wow, I feel like they're getting it on like every 10 pages in this book.
So that's the thing. So a lot of people are like, well, Go Deep is super super erotic and whatnot, and I would think to myself, you read Birthday Shot? Because they were just they were doing it everywhere
Everywhere.
all the time. So yeah.
That's so true. But I gave you a little time to prep for this question. So what would you say are some of your favorite romance authors, or you can do books?
Okay, so everyone knows I really, really, really love Christina C. Jones. Like, I adore Christina C. Jones. Um, and Wander is my favorite book. I feel as if, I don't know, there's just something about it. I remember when I read it, I did it in like just one sitting, and it was a
Oh,
book that just stuck with me because I like dystopian books to an extent.
mhm.
But there was just something, I don't know. Maybe maybe there's just something about Wander that really called. In fact, like I bought it for one of my friends just today. Like
Oh,
we had
really?
lunch, and she doesn't read romance. She only reads thrillers. Yeah, she only reads thrillers, and I said, okay, fine. Well, I need you to read this book for me. She said to me, why are you not sending me one of yours? I'm like, no, no, no. I need you to read this book for me, and let's go from there. Um, I love Katrina Jackson, um, and also Tasha Harrison. And then we have there's an Antiguan author by the name of Joanne Hillhouse. I really, really like her books as well, and Nicole Falls.
Okay. Those are two of those I haven't
I also,
read yet.
I also I say to people, so when I had no business reading any sort of books with sex scenes, I'd been
Mhm.
reading Eric Jerome Dickey. I remember I first met him when I was 16, and I said to him, well, when I first read Milk in My Coffee when I was 12, and he said to me, sorry, wait, excuse me? Where were your parents? I said, yeah, it's okay. Like my mom knew. But back to this ending. And my favorite book from him was Janvier. Um, so yeah, yeah. Um, those are my favorite romance authors. Well, some of them. It's a really long list. But some of them. But Christina C. Jones, she is a drop whatever I'm doing and read
And go read.
whatever whenever she releases.
Okay. I've like I have some of her books on my Kindle. I just haven't gotten around to it. I'm
Mhm.
bad. Like once I buy an ebook, I have to either prioritize it or it just
Yeah,
like gets buried because I have
I
like samples
understand.
of books I want to read, and then I'm like,
I
oh
have
wait, I own this book.
a lot of books that are they're like I bought Katrina Jackson's latest book. Well, I pre-ordered it, so I got it as soon as it was released,
Mhm.
and but had a really busy week at work. Or two. It's been released for about maybe 2 weeks, and I keep reading like a chapter before bed. But I'm dedicating tomorrow to just like finishing it because you're right. Unless a book gets onto my Kindle and I'm reading it right away, it is buried. And it's only when I'm going through, I'm like, oh, okay,
Oh wait, I bought
yeah.
this whole series? When did I buy this whole series? Why
But
did I buy this whole series?
I tend to have binges.
Hmm.
So I may have a weekend when the only thing I'm responsible for in my mind is cuddling and feeding my dogs. And I'm just on the couch with like an order Chinese food, and I'm just
Hmm.
on the couch, and my phone is on Do Not Disturb. One thing, I read very fast,
Hmm.
so I can read 3 books in a day if I'm just doing nothing else, and then I'll go through. So
Okay. I wish I was like that. Audiobooks, I can like audiobooks, like I'm a pro at knocking those out. Ebooks, I'm like, okay, let's take our time, and then I get scatterbrained. So then I start another book, and then I get a couple chapters into that, and I'm like, oh wait, but I want to start this book, and then I start
I
it, and then I realize I feel like I finished one book I started like 3 months ago, and I just got around. I'm like, oh wait, I was halfway through that book. Why did I put it
that
down?
has happened. That has happened to me. I remember. So it's a book that I was going through my Kindle, and I'm like, did I not finish this? because I was really enjoying it. But I think what happened was that I was enjoying it a lot, and I thought, well, let me slow this down. And then I'm really not sure what happens. But when I'm not binging, I'm reading more than one book at a time.
Mhm.
So I might go, my Fitbit is saying that I've walked 10,000 miles, but I've been sorry, 10,000 steps. That's clearly inaccurate. Um, but so I'd go, well, I'll read you in the morning. I read you at work, like during lunch break and whatnot, and I read you in the evening. But to combat my migraines, I'm exercising more and I'm eating better because apparently what you eat and moving your body affects your health. I didn't realize that. I'm having less coffee. It's been a struggle. So I do spend a lot of my evenings. Well, I go to bed at 8. Tonight's a special night. So by the time I get home from the gym after work, I'm a little bit too tired for the evening reads. So I'm doing one chapter during the evening, but I tend to read more than one book at a time. But audiobooks sometimes frustrates me because I can read faster than this. Um, so you're thinking, I listen to them in the car because it's a
Mhm.
very good way to go through things while you're driving.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, I can. Mhm.
do you read? So you read? Do you know of the Blood and Ash series?
Mhm.
I read the first 2 of those in a weekend. My friend said,
What?
my friend said, "Hey, do you have you heard of this?" And because I live under a rock, I'm like, "No, no." It's like, "Well, you like fantasy, paranormal, romance, so maybe." She's like, "I don't know. Do you want to try it?" And I said, "Okay, cool."
A
And that was
weekend?
Saturday morning, and I was finishing up a book. I
Mhm.
think I'd been finishing up maybe what the last book Christina Jones released. It was a novella, and so I had like maybe 30 pages left. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just finish this, and I'm gonna get to it. And that was Saturday, and then Sunday night, I'm like, well, so how do you think book 3 is going to go? And she went, sorry, what?
Like what? Like
But
that
I did
is
nothing that week.
impressive.
I showed up
That
to
is
work
impressive.
with needing to buy my lunch because I didn't go grocery shopping. I was just there on the
Mhm.
couch. But
That is absolutely impressive. Like I aspire to like get to that level. Like I tried reading the first book. I got a chapter in, I was like, okay, this is gonna take me way too long. So like let me wait for the audio to drop. And then everyone's like, oh, you have to read this book. I'm like, I'll wait for the audio to drop. Because it will take me like 10 years if I try to like I think the longest book that I read was a Harry Potter book, and that took me like 3 months. It was the last book.
the last
Because
one,
I'm like I lose attention so like, even if I'm enjoying a book, I'm like, okay, I read a chapter and then I go do something else, and then I go read a chapter and then I go do something else. So it's like I'm like a mess when it comes to reading books.
my best friend and I definitely read that one in a day. We annoyed her older cousin into taking us to Barnes and Nobles to get it right when it was released. And apparently, like her aunt was reminding, apparently all we had was milk. So we spent the rest of the day like coming downstairs into the kitchen to get like glasses of milk, and
Mhm.
then we went straight through.
Oh, okay. And like one question, my final question that I wanted to ask you, I'm really curious about this. Are there any different types of romance subgenres that you want to write in? Would you want to do like FF, Menage, or like
Polly,
mystery thriller? Ooh,
yeah,
reverse
I
harem?
have an idea for a throuple. Um, I'm not even sure where on the list of things I need to work on that that was. Yeah, I talk so much that I really want to tell you the plot, but I know I shouldn't. So I'm just like sitting here going, no. But like I have a list of things. I have a list of
Mhm.
like books or book ideas that I'm trying to go through. But definitely Polly.
Ooh. Okay. I'm super excited for that because like after like kind of diving more into like Katie Roberts, like Nikki Sloan, Madison Faye, Katrina Jackson, someone recommended to me her ghost book. I was like, how is she gonna pull this
I
off?
really like that one.
I was like,
My
this is
favorite,
wild.
favorite though. I love Neighborly. I feel
Oh,
as
that's
if
the one everyone
I
recommended to me first. I
I
was like,
think
oh, I'm gonna go read the ghost one first.
no, I love the ghost one. Um, but because I love that and there's just something about her writing though that is so
Hmm.
immersive. And I love like the little history, like going back in the past and like going
Hmm.
forward. And I just loved the ghost. Like she had all her personality was top notch. I was like, yeah, I
Hmm.
like you. um, but I definitely really liked Neighborly. And there was another one, I think it was Room for Three, which was also really good. But Neighborly, I think I have reread about 6 times because I'm like, I love the dynamic between the first, well, both of them actually.
Hmm.
Both couples, they had such great dynamics, like separately, and the mutual pining between the ladies were also. I really loved Neighborly.
I need to go read that one. The ghost one is the only one that I read by Katrina Jackson, but I have her other books on my Kindle, which was a bad decision to buy them without a clear plan of reading them because I get scared looking because I just like go like one
It
like, oh, what
overwhelms
is
you.
new? It
Yeah.
overwhelms me, so I'm like I have to grab the book and I have to start it like that second, or I'm like, oh wait, I bought this
Oh,
book?
well, would I be horrible to recommend some more? Would that be
I'm
too
like,
enabling?
that would
Because
be too
Shady
enabling.
Sanders has a book called Crave and Crave 2, and they are reverse harems.
Wait, who is this
Yes,
author? Crave by is
Shady
this
Sanders.
Chase and okay. You're
Yeah, they're
enabling me right
reverse
now.
and
This
that's
is a
not something that I see often, actually.
uh-huh.
So, like when she was doing the promo, I was like, "Did he say reverse?" Um, and I don't. I'm wondering. No, I don't think this is something else that I don't do. I don't read blurbs. I don't read the back
Mm,
of books. I
mm-hmm,
just buy them.
mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm reading a book. I'm like, what? What's actually going on here? And then I read the back. I'm like, oh, I would have expected that if I'd done my due diligence. So I don't know if it's on the back, but I don't think it's a massive spoiler. Um, the the men that she's in the reverse harem with, they were like members of one of her favorite boy bands when she was growing up. It was great. They're too.
Okay.
So,
Like you just like I was gonna read another book, but now I'm gonna
like,
stop,
sorry.
buy this book, and then I'm gonna blame you, and then like go like, why did you wreck my TBR? I'm down a rabbit hole with Katrina
I
Jackson, Christina C. Jones, like my Kindle and my wallet are gonna just go like, you know what, Charles, you're cut off. You're cut off. We're just gonna decline. We're just gonna decline. We're
we're
gonna
gonna clear
change your
out that. We'll just do a clear out. Yeah.
we're just gonna go like Kindle store not working for me right now. Kindle's like read what you have already on here.
I was
We
just
have like
gonna
three good
say that.
books.
So Shades and Page, so Taima and Sharonda had done the Read What You Have in
Hmm.
I think in January and maybe also February as well. And I thought I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna read what I had, and then things just kept dropping, and I went, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
sorry.
maybe
Maybe
not.
see, I don't feel bad because they're not physical copies, so like they can't stare at me from my shelves. but like they're ebooks, so I download. I never have to see it until I like go through my library and like see like, oh, I have this
Well,
book.
I do
So
that
like,
often. I'm always in my library and they're always there, like, but it's not like the self-help books. So, like, I bought Atomic Habits. Why? I don't know. But it's just there, like, hi, remember me? I'm like, yeah,
remember
yeah.
you bought me? You bought me.
Let
I'm
me
right
go
here.
to this. I bought a bunch of like self-help books, and they're there, and I know, and they're in a collection called
Mhm.
like Get Your Shit Together. And oh wow, now I've made myself guilty. So I'm gonna read a few chapters of that tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna read a few chapters of that tonight.
Okay. Um, but thank you so much, Rilzy, for coming on my channel.
Thank
It's
you for
been a
having me.
pleasure talking to you. Like, for everyone watching this video, I will link all her social media links down below in the description box, as well as links so you can go buy all the books. I personally recommend Love in the Time of Corona, but you can start with Go Deeper, Go Deep. I feel like that's like the safe bet to like recommend you. Like, if you want high steam, low angst, go grab that book. You will not be disappointed. But thank you so much, Rosie, for coming on my channel.
Thank you so much
And
for having me.
like I have got so many great book recommendations for you. But I will catch you guys with a brand new video. Bye everyone.